What's up, everyone? It's Ditch the Ego, and this is my new podcast, Change is a Choice. Welcome, and thank you for listening. I'm super excited to get to know you guys better, and I'm super excited for y'all to get to know me better. That's the point of this podcast, is for me to be able to speak more directly to my fans, to my community, to the producers and artists I work with, and to my friends and family and anyone who is out there listening and supporting the Ditch the Ego brand. So today with episode 1, I want you guys to be able to get to know a little bit more about me, my story, my journey, where I come from, and why I do what I do, why I make music, and why, more importantly, I'm doing my best to inspire people to choose change in their life. The title of this podcast, Change is a Choice. So I also want to take it as an opportunity to leave it open to you guys in the comments to tell me about yourselves. So if you want to share anything, I don't care what it is, share anything with yourself. Or if you want to message me, hit me up in the DMs and we can have a little discussion. And I want to get to know you guys better. So because we are a community, and I'd like to think that we are doing this together, choosing change, that is. So a little bit about me. I actually grew up in Los Angeles, and I'm adopted. So that's probably where my journey starts, I should say. I'm adopted at birth, and from the get-go, it was very difficult being adopted, as you can imagine. Obviously it's a blessing, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity that I've been given, but it's also been, it's been hard in its own way. I felt like I didn't belong a lot of times. I felt like why me? Why did I get adopted? Because there's a lot of people who don't get adopted. So right from the beginning, that was very difficult for me. And then at the age of 2, my birth mother tragically passed away of cancer. So I never was able to meet my birth mom, let alone really even get to a point where I could really understand that I was adopted, before she passed away. And so then that was even more difficult. And on top of that, my adoptive parents were very wealthy and successful. So it was like I was so blessed, but I also felt like, why me? Like, why was I the one who got blessed? And why did my mom have to pass away? And it was just, I felt out of place. I felt like I didn't belong. So from a very early age, I was already really struggling with a lot of mental illness and mental health issues, being that I was detached from my birth mother, and then she passed away, and I didn't feel like I belonged in the adoptive environment that I was growing up in. So as a kid, I was also born with drug baby symptoms. So my birth mother, more than likely used drugs while she was pregnant with me, and as a result, like I would scream as a baby. I'd scream in bright light. I couldn't do a ton of loud noises. I hated tags. I needed specific shoes. Weird stuff would happen. Like my ears would just get red and start burning hot. I have to put like ice packs on my ears. Like weird stuff. And I grew up with seizures. Epilepsy. So there was obviously some miswiring going on. And so as a kid, I had a lot of impulsivity issues, and it was really difficult for me to calm down. It was really difficult for me to focus. It was extremely difficult for me to move from one thing to another and stay in a routine. And I often had a lot of behavioral issues at home, and I just didn't, I felt inside, I felt like there was a piece of me missing from the minute I was growing up. And I think looking back on it now, I had, as a kid, as you can imagine, a kid had no idea how to handle that and express that. So I acted out. And so by the time I was about 10 years old, I was in and out of, in outpatient treatment facilities in the hospital. getting treatment for mental illness and my seizures. And my parents were just looking for answers. They were trying to help me. They were trying to find something that would, give me some direction and give me some, feeling of security, And it was that's really where my journey starts. Is that's my backstory of how I'm adopted and I grew up, how I grew up and whatnot. But where my journey really starts, as far as the mental health journey goes, is around 10 years old, where I start going into these outpatients in these hospitals, and by the time I was 13, I was in my first residential treatment facility, boarding school. So at 13 years old, I went to Utah, and I went to a residential boarding institution for troubled youth. And that was a terrible, terrible place. But, I made it through it. And, I want to, take this opportunity right now to speak out against institutionalized treatment for the most part. Now, later I'll get to the second residential treatment center that I went to that I absolutely love, and it's a diamond in the rough. But this treatment center that I went to in Utah, it's called Logan River Academy, and it was quite literally a boarding school for teenagers who a lot of them were in trouble with the law, and they were there instead of going to juvie or jail. But a lot of them also had issues with their parents and family at home. And I'd go to the classes every day, and we'd have group therapy, we'd have individual therapy every week, and we'd live in these dorms. And there was not nearly enough supervision. There was usually probably one, maybe two at most, staff on each dorm, and 10 kids per one. So that's like a 10-to-1 ratio. It's just not even close to enough. And I came in there at 13, and I was sleeping in the room with 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and I got bullied. I got severely bullied. There were times where I got beaten up. There were times where I had just disgusting pranks played on me. I got verbally abused, of course. And it was my first few months there were just miserable. And I learned very quickly that if I was going to survive through that environment, I was going to have to learn how that environment worked, and I was going to have to play the game. And there was, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I was also sexually abused there by another student who, now I look back now, I was 13 and that student was 17, almost 18. And it was just, terrible. I can't believe that, it was just, yeah. So that was really, really, really difficult for me to go through, especially being away from home and having no power to really control it or stop it or run away or anything like that. And I spent about a year at this program, Logan River Academy. And now it wasn't all terrible, I met some good friends, actually, who happened to also go to the school that I would end up going to when I came home. And had some good laughs with some people. But as a 13-year-old child, to develop in that environment, it was, to say the least, it was just, it was unimaginable, is what it was. It was unimaginable. I remember waking up and every day not believing that I was there and that was my reality. And I hadn't broken any laws, I hadn't really done anything wrong other than having behavioral issues, and being a kid, and I was born with a lot of these drug baby symptoms. But nonetheless, I was there, and I played the game to get out, and I was there for about a year. And then I came home, and like I said, I went to this new school called Westview. Now, Westview was actually ended up being a really good school to me. It was small, very, very condensed, not a lot of kids, a lot of one-on-one attention, mental health counseling. It was a really good school for me, and I actually did very well there academically. I always had done it well academically. I'm a very smart individual, but so I would go home, and I spent a little bit of time at home, about 2 years, until I get sent to my next residential treatment. And that was when I was just before I turned 16. And this was a much different treatment center than the first one, Logan River Academy. This one's called KW Legacy Ranch. And well, first, I guess I should say, before I move on to KW, I just want to use this moment to speak out against places like Logan River Academy. I believe that they should be shut down. I don't believe that you should be able to run an institution like that so clearly for profit, with kids being abused and not getting the help they need. It's just, these are people's children, and it's just wrong. So, I hope that me speaking out at least can bring awareness to anybody who's watching this, and hopefully develop some type of ripple effect. Now, moving on to my next treatment center, which was KW Legacy Ranch. This place turned into a home for me. It was totally different than any kind of residential treatment center you could imagine, or any kind of treatment I'd had ever. It was located by Area 51, so as you can imagine, in the middle of nowhere. And you go, when you first get there, you go out there, and you had to spend time, doing an introspection hike is what it's called, to give you some time to think and to reflect on why you're here, what's about to happen, those kinds of things. And then you spend a few days in the wilderness, camping at a cabin or in a tent, and you learn how to make your own food. You learn how to be innovative, and like I said again, it's a detox. It's you spend about 5 days in that environment. And it's to give you a massive break, bring everything to the stop that was getting you in trouble in your life before. And so, as you can imagine, as someone who grew up in Los Angeles, that was quite a shock to me, to be in the middle of the desert, basically camping, and I had no idea what was gonna go on, what was going to happen. I thought that's where the program is. I was like, no, oh my God, I'm going to have to be camping now for months. So that was definitely rough. But the staff that were there that day who brought me into the program one of them actually would end up becoming a father figure to me, and one of my mentors in life. And I love him dearly to this day, and it's he means so much to me, and I'll get to that him later. But so after that, you go to you go to the actual program, and you enter the program, and it's a ranch. So there's about 20 other boys there. At the time when I was there, there's about 20 other boys in this house. We all lived in this one house together, and we all roomed in bunks, together. And you would come join the group, and they would tell you how things work, the daily schedule, what you're going to be doing, what's expected of you, etc., etc. And I was definitely in shock, because it was a ranch in the middle of nowhere, and it was also very strict. It wasn't like the last program that I was in. Last program I was in, there was plenty of times where you were just doing whatever you wanted. There was no staff around. It was just, nobody cared. At this program, it was tight. Like, everything was watched. You weren't allowed to have any conversations unless staff could hear you. There was very strict rules. We weren't listening to any music. We couldn't have any outside news or any kind of stuff like that. We weren't allowed to talk about stuff that wasn't relevant to the ranch or the here and now, all those kinds of things. It's a very, very strict program. So it took me a good minute for me to get acclimated to that environment. And obviously at first I hated it. But my therapist, who's the owner of the program, Luke Hatch is his name, he started the program, and it's the ranch that it's on is his parents' ranch. So he grew up there. It's his home. It's his family's home. And his parents work at the program and help us kids. And so it's really a special place just because of that in and of itself. That, they brought this program to their home and opened this up, their home up to all of us kids to give us help. And Luke would always tell me that, there's a lot of kids who apply to that program. There's only 20 kids in that house. There's very few who get accepted because they handpick specific kinds of people, leaders, people who have great potential in life. Because they know that they can't help everybody, and they know also that they have to have a specific environment there, and you can't have specific kinds of people there in order to maintain that environment. So I started living on a ranch. So every day we'd get up at 6 a.m. and we'd go milk the cows. We'd go feed the horses. We'd go feed the goats. We'd feed the milk that we milked out of the dairy cows. We'd feed to the calves in bottles. And a lot of y'all are probably like, oh my God, that's so cute. It's a lot smellier and harder and more difficult than you think, especially when it's December in the winter and it's like 10 degrees and the milk is freezing as you're milking. It's not easy, to say the least. So that would be our chores. And then in the mornings after we'd got our chores done, we'd eat breakfast, and we'd go out and we'd do work projects. So we'd go work on the ranch. So sometimes, I'd go out and we'd be welding, or sometimes I'd go out and, we'd be herding cattle, from one pen to another. And sometimes we'd go out and we'd be fixing fence, or another time we'd go out and we'd be building a bridge. The list goes on and on. And we started. Sorry, I have this itch. Allergy season. I started working on this ranch, and it was hard, man. I mean, the ranch work is the hardest work you'll ever do. I learned how to buck hay. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. And if you don't know what bucking hay is, if you ever seen those bales of hay, those rectangular blocks of hay, those are called bales of hay. Well, there's big ones, of course, but there's those small ones that a human could lift. Except those bales that you're lifting, a human can lift. Those are anywhere from 70 to 100 pounds. So depending on how wet they are. So we would go out into the field, the hay field, and we would go pick up these bales, put them onto the trailer truck, go out and get another one, put it on the trailer truck, go out and get another one, stack them all up on the trailer truck, and go unload them into the pen. And that's easily the hardest physical work I've ever done in my life, no doubt, hands down. And I spent about 2.5 years at this ranch, and I know you're probably like, wow, that's a long time. But part of it was that it took me a long time for me to get my program going. But part of it was also that, my parents felt like it was better for me to not come home to Los Angeles and to go straight from there after graduating high school to college. So it took me a year for me to really get my program going. I spent a year there before I really did anything, to be honest. Because at KW, they're not going to just hand things to you. If you don't want to do any work, they'll keep you on level 1 for a year or whatever. They don't care. So it's all about you. You make your own program. And that's how life works. You got to do the work. So it's a good concept to have the program designed around. And in my time there, I learned so many wonderful things. And I had so many magical moments. And we went, like, one Christmas, we would go out and, well, not one Christmas, when it was Christmas, we would go out and cut our own Christmas tree. We would carol around to all the houses in town. It was a special environment. We were raising a lot of the food we were eating. It was just, we learned so much invaluable things, that lessons in life that I would have never learned in the city. No doubt. No doubt. And, you know, my therapist there, Luke Hatch, he became a father figure to me, and this other staff member that I told you about, his name is Steve. They became father figures to me, and in a lot of ways they saved my life, because they taught me invaluable, like I said, invaluable lessons that I carry with me to this day, and I'm so thankful for them. And you know, it was a tough experience. It was the hardest experience of my life, no doubt. But after 2.5 years, when I came out of that program, I was a changed person. I was a much better person. I was a different man. Now hadn't figured it out yet why I needed to change and why I needed help and stuff, but at least I had the tools, so that later in my life, when I was ready to change, I had the tools in order to make that change. And that's just a blessing. It's priceless. That blessing's priceless, to be able to have those life tools, that toolbox that you can just go to whenever you need to. So I go from this ranch to college, to a college named Southern Utah University. And mainly that was because, that's where my parents wanted me to go, and college, that is. And that's where my therapist actually had gone to college, and it was close to the ranch. So we thought it was a good fit. And so I went to this college in Utah for 3 years, and that started a whole other journey, because Utah is its own country. And college was, for me, it was a typical college experience. I'm as you know, I'm a musician, so I'd already been making music, so I wasn't really there, at college for a degree or for my career. So I, mostly did generals part-time, worked full-time, and then did the music on the side. And it was a great experience. I met some brothers, in college that are going to be forever lifelong friends. We created memories that I'll never forget. And like I said, typical college experience. I had a lot of good fun, a lot of fun times, and it was did a lot of stuff on campus, and so that was really cool as well, especially after being in a treatment center for so long. So, but at a certain point, after 3 years in being in Utah, I realized music is my path. And I'd already been doing the music thing since I was 10 years old. And when I was 10 years old, I started making music. When I was 6 years old, I started just putting sounds together on the piano, just because I have perfect pitch. So I just started putting piano sounds together and just started composing. And by 10 years old, I had my first project, self-produced, self-written, self-recorded, all of the above. Out on SoundCloud at 10 years old or like 11 or something like that. And it was shit. It was not good. It was not good. But it was like, for a 10-year-old to be doing that, it was pretty good for a 10-year-old. So, I've taught myself everything. I taught myself how to make music, like a lot of us independent artists have. And I figured out my way, as I've gone, and I put in the time, I put in the effort. I've written lots of songs. I put in the 10,000 hours. And, I realized at the end of college, the end of my tenure in college, it was 3 years. And I just realized, look, man, I got to go do this music thing full time. I got to go pursue this. This is my life. College ain't going to get me where I need to go. So I packed up my bags, and I fit everything I could fit into my Toyota Corolla, and I drove from Utah over to Oregon, Portland, Oregon. And I'd been there like once or twice as a kid. We have some family out there, but I just knew in my heart and my soul that it was the right place, and I researched it, and I was like, this is the place for me. So I just went, and I just took a gamble, and I was like, we're just going to move there. So I just moved there. And that was December 2019, right before the pandemic started. So when I got there, the pandemic started, and I spent 3 years in Portland as well. And it was basically the duration of the pandemic. So when I was in Portland, I learned a lot about myself. Spending so much time with myself alone in my apartment, and plus I didn't know anyone in the city, so I was very alone, and I couldn't really meet people, and I I had so much time inside to work on my music that it's actually the reason I believe at this point where I'm at where I'm at now, because I figured out a lot about my brand during COVID, and I found my path. I found my niche, as far as a content, well, musician and now a content creator in general. So, so like I said, I spent 3 years in Portland, and that was a great experience. I spent a lot of time, getting to know myself. And then it was finally time to come home. It's finally time to come home to Los Angeles. And so then I packed up my bags again 6 months ago now, and I came back out here to Los Angeles to be around my family, my friends, and to further my music business and career. And so I tried to make that as fast as I could. That is a little bit of a rundown of my journey. Now, obviously, I'll always be getting into more specifics, but something that's a big part of my brand is mental health awareness, and as an artist, I believe, as a musician, I believe that music is about meaning. It's not just about making good sounds. It's not about just making songs that are cool or whatever. It's about touching people's souls, connecting with people, with other human beings through your music. And about 3 years ago, I had a spiritual awakening. Now, like I told you, the last treatment center that I went to, KW Legacy Ranch, it gave me the tools I needed if and when I wanted to make change, but I wasn't ready to make change. And I wasn't even aware I needed to make change, to be honest. I was pretty oblivious. And I was also 18 years old. I'm 24 now. So, I guess it's more than 3 years ago, but, well, no, actually it was about 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago, I had a spiritual awakening, and I believe my life and my soul was saved as a result of psychedelic mushrooms and LSD. So I am a very, very, very big proponent of psychedelic medicine. Now, that does not mean that I'm saying that anyone out there watching this right now should go out there and just do a bunch of psychedelics, okay? What I'm saying is if you have the right intent behind using psychedelics, it can be very useful for certain people. I happen to be one of those certain people, but I also didn't know that. I'm not someone who likes to use drugs. I smoke weed, but I don't even drink, okay? So at the time I was in college, a really good friend of mine, I won't name his name, at the moment, because I don't know if he wants people knowing he uses these substances. But I had a good friend of mine in college who came to me one day and said, "Look, man, I know you're really struggling with the mental illness. You should try this because it really helps." And I've heard there's a lot of studies and data on how great it is for depression and for PTSD and things like that. And at first I was very against it. I was like, no, I'm not doing any of that stuff. But eventually, I thought to myself, why is this person who I trust so much, he's a very successful individual, by the way, why would he be telling me to do this if it was bad for me? He has my best interest. So I eventually came to the decision that I might as well do it once. And if it changes my life, great. And if it doesn't, I'll never do it again. And that started my journey, my psychedelic journey, and the opening up of my spirit. And I eventually, 3 years ago, in October of 2020, I had my first ego death experience. And ever since that day, life has been completely different. The way I operate, the way my brain works is just been completely different. And I realized why I needed to make change, and I realized why I needed to help myself, and the things that I needed to do to help myself. And that was about 3 years ago. And I've been on this journey ever since of self-discovery and healing and recovery. And it's been a long road, and that's when my music turned into something more meaningful, because I realized, it's not just about making good sounds. I'm really confident in my ability to make music and make things that sound good. It's about touching people through the music, like I said. And so I began making that my purpose, and I dedicated my life to helping people see what I've seen, and the awakening that, helping people get to that point of awakening themselves through the music. So that's why everything I do is mental health based, because, the way I see it, I was suffering from an extreme case of mental illness, and I wasn't even aware I had mental illness. That's how severe it was. And the psychedelics woke me up. I liken it to shaking a snow globe, and then everything settled down differently. And my life is forever changed, and I'm grateful and blessed, and thankful to the universe. So at that point, when I'm was moved from Portland to LA 6 months ago, I really I've been at a point where I needed to take my career to the next level, and that's what this podcast is also about too, is adding more content for people to see from me, and so y'all can get to know me better. And also because I need to stop being scared of my own success. I need to put my face on the camera. I need to market myself, and I need to put myself out there, okay, to get myself where I want to go. And I'm scared, and it's hard to be vulnerable, but I'm finally doing it, and it feels good. It honestly, it feels really good, because I'm conquering my fears, and that's my biggest fear before was that I was gonna live with regret, because I wasn't gonna try to face my fears, and now I'm facing them. So it feels amazing. And I hope that I can inspire you guys. I hope that you guys obviously love my music, but I hope that you guys love the message in my music, and I hope that it speaks to you, and I hope that we can have discussions, and we can become this team of a community. You know what I mean? Because I can't do this without you guys, and the fans are what it's all about. And to me, it's always about giving back. My father taught me, if I do anything to make him happy, it's to pay it forward. So I want to talk a little bit about where this podcast is going to be going and how it's going to look from here on out. So some episodes will just be me. Obviously, today's the introduction episode, so I'm kind of opening up a little bit more about myself, giving you guys some more information about myself. And most of the episodes will just be me talking about whatever new revelations I've come to with myself, or whatever I feel like the universe is calling me to share with you guys. And some episodes will be with guests, special guests, other producers, artists I work with, things of that nature. And it'll be great to start getting into some discussions with you guys, and the other thing I wanted to open up about as well is that what's held me back so much of from pursuing my career and pursuing my music and myself in the ways I know that I can, and know I need to, and know I'm capable of, is because when I was young, I went through a very, very, very difficult legal issue, and I was falsely accused of sexual abuse. And as you can imagine, as a young child, being accused of something like that was beyond it was incomprehensible. I'm not going to get into who accused me, because I don't think they want that to be public. But at that point, I spent the next almost 10 years or so, about 10 years or so, clearing my name and fighting for my freedom and fighting for my reputation and fighting for myself. And in the end, I did. I won. I did beat the case. And not that there was like a case, but per se, I beat the case. There was nothing there, and there was a little bit of an investigation into it, and then very quickly the police came to the idea that there was nothing there. But that dragged on for about a year, man, and that was tough. That was really tough. And this was someone who was close to me. So, who accused me of these things, which are absolutely unequivocally false and not true. And um, it 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 almost destroyed my life, and it paralyzed me into this fear of this fear of society, and this fear of what people will do to you, and what people could make up. And I saw that people could innocently, be accused of things and be found guilty of things that they didn't do, because who knows why. But that experience was really, really difficult on me, and it's really hard for me to talk about it right now because I've held it in for so long, because I was scared of what the world was going to think of me. I was scared that, people were going to cancel me or whatever. And it's like, I'm at a point now where I'm just like, you know what? I know my truth, and I know the reality of the situation. And by opening up, there's other people out there who I know will resonate, and it will connect with. Now, it's been really difficult for me because I was accused of that, but I also dealt with addiction. I've also dealt with addiction in my life, and sex happened to be my drug of choice, per se. So, and in specific, it's been porn addiction, to be honest with you guys. And I struggled with that ever since I was a kid. So I was struggling with porn addiction since I was a child, and I had this false accusation against me as a child, since I was a child. And today I can say proudly that I've overcome both. And I'm sitting here today, my true self and my authentic self. And I'm very proud of myself because it's taken me a long time to get here. And the reason I'm sharing all these things with you guys is because I want you guys to know that you're not alone. And in specific, you're not alone if you feel like the world's given up on you, and your family's given up on you, and your friends have given up on you, and if you even feel like you've given up on you. Because I've been there, and I spent most of my life there, and it was miserable. Absolutely miserable. And I hope that by sharing and being open with you guys, that I can inspire even one of you to overcome your fear and overcome whatever it is that's holding you back in your own life from becoming your authentic self and your true self. Because you deserve it. We deserve it. And we all deserve happiness. We all deserve to be happy. And we live in a broken world. We live in a broken culture. And, we live in a very backwards culture right now. And negativity is promoted as mainstream and positive. And I won't even get into politics, but politics, to say the least, is complicated at best. And people are pitted against each other in this world, and it's hard enough. But when you have society, your family, your friends specifically working against you, it feels impossible. And yourself working against you, it feels impossible. So, I hope that I can inspire any of you guys out there to follow your dreams, because for me, that's what this is about, is inspiring you guys to choose change. I've followed my dream of music since I was a little child, and I went through all that treatment, and I wasn't allowed to make music in those facilities, and I spent a lot of time away from it, not being able to make music, and let alone listen to music. And I still persevered, and I still figured out a way. When I was in Utah, I used to record music in the garage in freezing cold weather. So it's all about how bad do you want it. Do you want to be happy and successful? If you do, you'll do anything to follow your passions and what you feel is your calling in life. But if you don't want to be happy and successful, or more so, honestly, in my belief, it's more so that most people, they want to, but they don't want to do the work. well, if you don't want to do the work, you're not going to get anywhere in life, because life is hard. So you might as well pick what's hard. That's my logic. I get to pick what's hard if I decide to choose to put my energy towards specific things. So this podcast recording has been very therapeutic for me. And I feel blessed to be opening up. As you can tell, I'm obviously a bit nervous, and I'm kind of feeling my way through it. But I didn't want to have too much of an outline, because I just wanted to speak to the heart to you guys, because that's what it's about. It's just about speaking to the heart. It's from the heart, from my heart to your guys' heart. And not every podcast will just be about my journey and mental illness. We'll talk about current events like the NBA. I'm a big Lakers fan, so I'll definitely be talking some NBA on the podcast. We'll be obviously talking about new music releases, new news in the music industry, and current events. Any kind of current events that I feel like I want to touch on and say give my opinion on and talk about. But majority of it will be focused on mental health awareness and delivering some inspiration to the community. So I really, really appreciate anybody who has made it this far watching this video. It has been really difficult for me to get to this point, like I said, in specific of sharing, sharing that I had to beat a false accusation of sexual abuse. And it was incredibly, I thought I'd lost my future in my life. And I'm just thankful to be here today. And I'm thankful that I've made it out of those situations. And I know the universe forgives me for any mistakes that I've made in my life in general. And I don't wish being falsely accused of a crime upon anybody in this world, because having to fight for your freedom is, when you're innocent, is the most terrifying feeling in the world, because you don't know if you're going to be able to prove it, because clearly someone's already created some fabrication of a story. So, we live in a world where that's becoming more common. You take Johnny Depp and Amber Heard as an example. Johnny Depp's career was almost ruined by Amber Heard. Now, I don't really know what you believe. I respect your guys' belief. My belief is that I believe Johnny Depp, and clearly that's what the court system believed as well. And there's a lot of false accusations coming specifically against men in the sexual realm, like in the topic of sex and sexual abuse. There's a lot of false accusations coming out nowadays, and those women aren't going to jail, or those men who are accusing falsely. None of those people are going to jail. None of those people are getting in trouble. But the reputations of the people they're falsely accusing are getting destroyed. And that's not right. So someone had to speak out. And I chose to be one of those people to speak out. And I hope that my story can resonate with people. And I hope that it can carry, and I can continue to talk about it. And I know that I'm going to get hate. And I know that I'm going to get people who disagree with me on things. But you know what? Whatever. It is what it is. I love myself. I know myself. I know my truth. And I'm grounded. I'm balanced. So I'm going to keep doing me. Okay? This week is my album networking week event. I've got people flying in from all over the country on my team to cook up my debut studio album. That's coming in the fall of this year, fall 2023. I'm super excited to share that with you guys. It's a dream come true. And I'll be able to share more details with you about it in the coming months. But meanwhile, I'm still dropping music every single week, every Friday, and we're going to be doing podcasts every single Monday. So every Monday a new pod, every Friday a new song, leading up to the album this fall 2023. And the DT expansion is here. I'm going to be bringing more content to you guys than ever before. So thank you guys for watching. If you tuned in, please like and subscribe. That would mean the world to me. And comment even if you're feeling like being really extra nice. And, you know, I hope that you guys all have an amazing day. And I hope that I continue to inspire you guys. So stay strong, okay? Great things always come.